Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a life story that honestly reads like a massive, continent-spanning cinematic epic. I mean, listen to this. He was born into the gold of Persia and died weaving palm baskets for a living. The only man in history to be called a member of the Prophet's own family despite having no Arab blood.
Okay, let's just pause and think about that profound irony for a second. You really have to wonder, how exactly does a guy go from unimaginable wealth to absolute, intentional poverty by choice? And not just that, how does he navigate such extreme hardship to reach that legendary status? Well, let's retrace his footsteps and find out.
Let's kick things off with part 1, the Fire Guardian.
Long before he was known to the world as Salman, he was a young man named Ruzba, and he was living in what you could definitely call a gilded cage. He was born into serious wealth in a village near the beautiful city of Isfahan. His father was the Dikhan, basically the chief and major landowner of the area. And his dad loved him so fiercely and was just so overprotective that he essentially kept Ruzba locked up inside their sprawling estate like a prisoner. Raised as a very devout Zoroastrian, Ruzba was eventually given this huge honor. He became the guardian of the sacred fire, carrying the massive responsibility of making sure those ritual flames literally never ever went out.
But despite having this super prestigious role, Ruzba just felt empty. One day, his dad sends him out to inspect their lands, and while he's passing by a Christian church, the sound of their melodic, soulful chanting just stops him dead in his tracks. He goes inside, totally captivated by their worship, and he has this massive internal realization. He realizes right then and there that this faith resonates with him way more deeply than those ancestral fires he'd been tending his whole life. So, Ruzba goes back home and, being honest, confesses his newfound admiration for Christianity to his loving father. And his dad's reaction? Absolutely extreme. Terrified of losing his beloved son to a foreign religion, he literally imprisons him inside their own mansion. We are talking heavy iron chains wrapped around his feet.
Which brings us to part 2, a seeker in chains.
But here's the thing about a true seeker of knowledge. Physical chains just aren't going to hold them. Ruzba manages to sneak a message out to the local Christians, asking them to give him a heads up the second a caravan heads for Syria. When the time comes, he breaks those iron fetters, sneaks out of his family's massive estate in disguise, and just disappears into the unknown. And guys, this wasn't some quick gap year trip. This was a grueling, multi-year odyssey. He goes to Syria first, studying under religious scholars. When his first teacher turns out to be corrupt, does he quit? Nope. He moves on to Mosul, serving a truly pious saint, then to Nosibin, and finally to Amarium. For years, he is just grinding, studying, worshiping, and desperately seeking pure spiritual guidance from one elder to the next.
In all of that wandering, it finally pays off in Amarium. On his deathbed, Ruzba's absolute last teacher gives him the ultimate clue. He tells him that the true teachings are fading, but a new prophet is about to appear in the land of the Arabs. And then, he gives him this highly specific, undeniable checklist to identify him. This prophet will migrate to a land of date palms, he'll absolutely refuse charity, but he will accept gifts. And lastly, he's going to carry a distinct physical mark, the seal of prophecy, right between his shoulders.
Moving on to part 3, betrayal and the palms of Yathrib.
Armed with this exact checklist, Ruzba's mission is crystal clear. But actually, his journey is about to take a really dark turn. Driven by the prophecy, he scrapes together whatever meager savings and livestock he has, and he pays some Arab traders to guide him down to Arabia. But instead of honoring the deal, these guys completely betray him in the desert of Wadi al-Qura. They steal his money, strip him of his freedom, and literally sell him into slavery. He's passed around from hand to hand as property until he's finally bought by a Jewish man from the Banu Qurayza tribe and brought to a city called Yathrib, a city that happens to be famously surrounded by, you guessed it, lush date palms. The exact landscape from the prophecy.
So one day, he's up at the top of a palm tree doing this grueling manual labor, and he overhears that a man claiming to be a prophet has just arrived in the city. Ruzba doesn't just blindly accept it. He systematically, almost scientifically, tests the Prophet Muhammad. First, he brings food and offers it as charity. The prophet gives it to his companions but doesn't take a single bite himself. Boom, check 1. Later, he brings dates as a gift. The prophet happily accepts and eats them. Check 2. Finally, at a funeral, he strategically positions himself behind the prophet, and when the prophet's cloak slips, he sees it, the physical seal between his shoulders. Overwhelmed, he literally falls to his knees weeping. He had finally found the truth.
All right, part 4, freedom and the trench. After confirming all 3 signs, he embraces Islam and takes on a brand new name, Salman. But despite this huge spiritual liberation, we can't forget he's still legally bound by the heavy chains of slavery. To buy his freedom, his master demands an absolutely staggering ransom, 40 ounces of pure gold and the planting of 300 date palms. I mean, that is an impossible sum for a slave. But this is where it gets beautiful. The entire community steps up. The Prophet Muhammad and his companions pool their resources. One guy brings 10 palm shoots, another brings 20, until all 300 are planted by the Prophet himself and the gold is paid in full. Salman is finally, completely free.
Now a free man in Yathrib, which is now known as Medina, Salman quickly proves just how valuable he is to the community. He wasn't just a spiritual guy, he brought this highly sophisticated knowledge from the Persian Empire. And that knowledge became absolutely critical when a massive, terrifying army threatened to completely wipe the city off the map.
We're talking about the Battle of the Trench. The Muslims were vastly outnumbered by this attacking force of 24,000 soldiers. Absolute panic was setting in. But then, Salman steps up as this brilliant military strategist. He suggests a Persian defensive tactic that the Arabs had literally never seen before, digging a massive, impassable ditch around the vulnerable parts of Medina. This one piece of advice was a total game changer. It stunned the attacking armies, completely neutralized their cavalry, and literally saved the city from destruction.
And there was a crazy spiritual weight to all that grueling digging, too. The sources tell us that while digging the trench, Salman hit this massive, unbreakable rock. The Prophet steps in and strikes the rock 3 times. With every single strike, a blinding spark flies into the air, and the Prophet describes these incredible visions of the future global conquests of Islam. The palaces of Syria, the illuminated halls of Persia, and the gates of Yemen. These were prophecies that Salman himself would actually live to see fulfilled.
Which brings us to our final chapter. Part 5, The Son of Islam. Because of his massive contribution at the trench, this friendly argument actually broke out among the Arab tribes. The refugees from Mecca are saying, Salman is one of us, while the locals of Medina are like, no way, he's ours. The Prophet settles it with this monumental declaration. Salman is from us, the Ehel al-Bayt, officially elevating this former Persian slave into his own household. Fast forward to his later years, and the contrast is just mind-blowing. Salman rises up to become the powerful governor of Madinah, the former capital of the Persian Empire. He's granted this massive stipend of 5,000 dirhams, but guess what? He gives every single coin away to charity. Instead of living like the Persian royalty he was born to be, he earns his daily bread by weaving baskets out of palm leaves in a simple hut. When people asked this powerful governor about his lineage, his answer was perfect. I am the son of Islam.
Salman Al-Farsi gave up the immense gold of Persia, crossed continents, survived the brutal chains of slavery, and faced down literal armies, all for one thing, to find the light of truth. His journey is the ultimate testament to the power of a sincere seeker. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this thought. What is holding you back in your own journey? If Salman could sacrifice an entire kingdom for the truth, what are you willing to sacrifice? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking.